The gift registry link didn't go to Crate and Barrel. It didn't go to Pottery Barn or some fancy home goods store I'd never heard of. It was a custom website, a single page with a glamour shot of my brother, Kevin, and his fiancée, Tiffany, staring off into the distance like they were discovering a new continent. The page was titled Our Future Fund, and the main item had a price tag of $25,000. My name was right next to it. So, I did what any loving, supportive older brother would do. I went to their wedding. I smiled. I toasted. I played the part of the proud best man. And when the time came for gifts, I walked right up to the happy couple, in front of God and all 150 of their guests, and handed my brother a thick, crisp envelope. He felt the weight of it, and a greedy little smile played on his lips. But when he opened it, his face went from beaming to confused to the color of spoiled milk. Because inside wasn't a check. It was a professionally printed, meticulously itemized invoice for $28,754.32. The grand total of every dime he had borrowed from me over the last 10 years, plus interest. Let me tell you how he got here. My brother Kevin is what you'd call a golden child, if the gold was cheap plating that flaked off the second you looked at it too closely. We grew up in a typical suburban home, but in our parents' eyes, Kevin was the sun, and I was just a planet that was lucky enough to be in his orbit. He got charm. I got a work ethic. He got bailed out. I got told to budget better. When he crashed his first car, Dad co-signed for a new one. When I needed money for college textbooks, I got a part-time job washing dishes. You get the picture. I loved him, you know. He's my brother. But as we got older, his charm started to look a lot more like manipulation. His bad luck started to look a lot like bad choices. I went to college, got a degree, and started a small IT consulting business. I worked my ass off. I lived on ramen, drove a 10-year-old Civic, and poured every cent back into my company. Meanwhile, Kevin was finding himself. This involved a series of failed get-rich-quick schemes, a lot of sleeping until noon, and an endless stream of calls to me or my parents for cash. The Bank of OP, that was me. It started small. $100 here for a car repair, $200 there for a dental emergency that always seemed to coincide with a new video game release. But then it escalated. After I landed my first big contract, he hit me up for $5,000. He had this can't-miss business idea, importing artisanal dog collars from Guatemala. I was skeptical, but he laid on the brotherly guilt thick. This is it, man. My big break. You can't let me down. I gave him the money. I never saw a single dog collar, but I did see his Instagram post from a 2-week business trip to Ibiza a month later. When I confronted him, he just laughed it off. Oh, that? Networking, bro? You gotta spend money to make money. He never mentioned the $5,000 again. The biggest one was the $10,000. He'd been fired from his 6th job in 3 years, something about creative differences with his boss over his attendance record, and was about to be evicted. My mom called me, sobbing. You can't let your brother be homeless. He's so sensitive. This will break him. So, like a fool, I paid his rent for the next 8 months. I wrote loan in the memo line of every single check. He cashed them without a word. That was the turning point for me. I realized I wasn't helping him. I was enabling him. I was his safety net, so he never had to learn how to fly. I sat him down and told him the bank was closed. No more cash. He threw a fit, called me selfish, said I'd changed. My parents were even worse. He's your only brother. How can you be so cold? Family helps family. I told them I was done setting myself on fire to keep him warm. The relationship got frosty after that, but my finances had never been healthier. I started keeping a spreadsheet. Every loan, big or small, that I could remember. The date, the amount, the ridiculous excuse he gave. It was more for my own sanity than anything else. A reminder of why I had to keep my wallet shut. Then, about a year ago, Tiffany entered the picture. Tiffany was a perfect match for Kevin. She believed that manifesting was a viable financial strategy and that her Instagram aesthetic was a full-time job. They were two peas in an entitled pod. Their entire relationship was a performance for social media. Professional photo shoots for their 6-month anniversary, sappy captions that bore no resemblance to reality. I swear, They probably scheduled their arguments to ensure optimal lighting. When they got engaged, my mom called me, ecstatic. Isn't it wonderful? They're so in love. Now, Tiffany has always dreamed of a perfect wedding. It's up to us, the family, to make that happen for her. That little phrase, up to us, sent a shiver down my spine. I knew exactly what it meant. The first direct hit came a few months later. Kevin called, asking me to be his best man. I accepted because despite everything, he was still my brother. In the very next breath, he said, "Awesome. So, the first payment for the wedding planner is due. It's only, like, 3 grand. Mom and Dad covered the deposit, but they're a little tight right now. Can you handle this one?" I felt that old, familiar feeling, a mix of anger and exhaustion. "No, Kevin, I can't." The silence on the other end was heavy. "What do you mean you can't? Your business is doing great. I see the pictures you post. I mean, I'm not paying for your wedding planner. That's on you and Tiffany." He started sputtering. About family, about how I was embarrassing him, about how this was the most important day of his life. I just kept repeating, "No." He hung up on me. An hour later, my dad called to tell me what a disappointment I was. I just sighed. The battle lines were being drawn. The next skirmish was the bachelor party. Kevin sent me and a few of his other friends a detailed itinerary for a 5-day extravaganza in Las Vegas. The plan included VIP bottle service at 3 different clubs, a private poker tournament, and suites at the Bellagio. At the bottom of the email was a budget breakdown. As the best man, I was apparently expected to cover not only my share, but his entire trip: flights, hotel, food, and entertainment. The total next to my name was a cool $8,000. I replied to the email with 2 words: absolutely not. I then called him. "Kev, are you out of your mind? 8 grand for a party? I can host a poker night at my place. I'll buy the beer and pizza." You would have thought I'd suggested he get a job. He went ballistic. "A pizza party? Are you serious? This is my last ride as a single man. Tiffany is getting a bachelorette weekend in Napa. You're trying to humiliate me." I told him to have fun in Vegas, but that I wouldn't be funding it or attending. The fallout was nuclear. I was officially branded selfish and jealous by my parents and the happy couple. They ended up going to a local casino for one night, funded by my dad's credit card. But the story they told the rest of the family was that I had backed out at the last minute, leaving them high and dry. I was starting to feel like the villain in a movie I never agreed to be in. Every attempt to set a reasonable boundary was twisted into an act of aggression. I was withdrawing, talking to them less and less. It was peaceful, too peaceful. And then, the email arrived. The subject line was, "Our registry, K&T." This was it. The final straw. The inciting incident for the end of the world as I knew it. I clicked the link, and my jaw hit the floor. This wasn't a registry. It was a ransom note. There were no blenders or bath towels, just different funds you could contribute to. The honeymoon helicopter tour for $1,000. The designer luggage set for $2,500. It was the tackiest, most shameless cash grab I'd ever seen. But the real horror was at the very top, under a section titled Family Keystone Supporters. There were 2 entries. The first was my parents' names, next to a suggested contribution of $15,000. I almost choked. I knew for a fact they had to take out a home equity loan just to cover their share of the catering. And then there was the second entry. My name. Beside it was a single, non-negotiable, pre-filled amount. $25,000. I just stared at it. $25,000. More than the down payment on my first condo. More than my car was worth. It was a number so absurd, so completely detached from reality, that I actually started to laugh. It was the laugh of a man who has finally seen the punchline to a very, very long and terrible joke. I needed to be sure. I picked up the phone and called Kevin. I kept my voice calm. "Hey, I got the registry link. I think there might be a typo on it." "A typo? Where?" he asked, his voice breezy. "The part with my name. It says $25,000. "Oh, that?" he said, as casually as if he were talking about the weather. "No, that's right. Tiff and I figured it would just be easier to put down what we expected. You're doing so well, and as best man, you should really set the tone." We're thinking of it as our house down payment, you know? A real head start. I felt a strange calm wash over me. The kind of calm you feel in the eye of a hurricane. Kevin, I said slowly, I am not giving you $25,000. His tone shifted instantly. The breezy charm was gone, replaced by a cold, hard edge. Wow. Okay, I see how it is. After everything Mom and Dad have done for you, you can't do this one thing for your own brother's wedding? Everything they've done for me. The dam of my composure finally cracked. They haven't given me a dime since I was 18. I paid my own way through school. I started my own business from scratch. Let's talk about everything I've done for you. He scoffed, a sound dripping with disdain. Oh, here we go? You're never going to let me forget that, are you? That's what family is for, man. We support each other. You shouldn't hold that over my head. And then he delivered the line. The one single sentence that ignited the fire that would burn everything to the ground. Look, he said with an exasperated sigh. Just think of the 25 grand as wiping the slate clean for all that other little stuff you loaned me over the years. We can finally just call it even. That was it. That was the moment. He didn't see it as debt. He didn't see it as help. He saw it as his due, an advance on his inheritance from my bank account. And now he wanted to erase a nearly $30,000 debt by having me give him another $25,000. The rage that filled me wasn't hot and explosive. It was ice cold. It was methodical. A plan, fully formed and perfect in its beautiful pettiness, downloaded into my brain. You know what, Kevin? I said, my voice dangerously cheerful. That's a great idea. Let's wipe the slate clean. I'll bring a very special gift to the wedding to make sure we're all squared away. Can't wait. See you there. I hung up before he could respond. I opened my laptop, pulled up that old spreadsheet, and got to work. The day of the wedding was exactly as tacky and ostentatious as I'd imagined. Everything was draped in white and gold satin. Tiffany had a dress so large it looked like it had its own gravitational pull. Kevin looked smug, like a king presiding over a kingdom he hadn't paid for. I played my part. I stood beside him at the altar. I held the rings. I smiled for the endless photos. During the reception, I gave my best man speech. It was a masterpiece of passive aggression. To Kevin and Tiffany, I toasted, raising my glass. I've known Kevin my whole life, and I can honestly say he has always gotten exactly what he wanted. Seeing him here today with Tiffany, it's clear that tradition continues. May you both get everything you deserve in life. People clapped, oblivious. Kevin and Tiffany beamed, hearing only the compliments. Then came the moment I was waiting for. The DJ announced that the happy couple would be opening a few special gifts for the photographer. My mother, bless her meddling heart, had made sure my gift was front and center. She couldn't wait to see her generous, successful son shower his brother with wealth. The optics would be fantastic. They called my name. I walked up to the head table, holding a large, professional-looking document envelope. Kevin's eyes lit up. Tiffany looked like she was about to vibrate out of her skin. Wow, bro, this looks official, Kevin said with a laugh. Oh, it is, I said, smiling back. I wanted to give you something lasting, something meaningful. He took the envelope. He positioned it for the camera. Tiffany leaned in, her smile wide and predatory. He unfastened the clasp and slid the papers out. His smile froze. It didn't fade. It just froze on his face, a grotesque mask of joy. His eyes scanned the first page. The color drained from his face so fast I was worried he might faint. Tiffany, annoyed by his silence, snatched the papers from him. Her jaw didn't just drop. It unhinged. Page 1 was a cover letter, printed on my company's official letterhead. Dearest Kevin and Tiffany, it read. Congratulations on your special day. In a recent conversation, you mentioned the importance of wiping the slate clean as you begin your new life together. I couldn't agree more. A marriage should begin free from the burden of old debts. Enclosed, please find a detailed summary of the financial support I have provided over the past decade. I consider the complete and immediate repayment of this outstanding balance to be the most meaningful wedding gift you could possibly receive. With love, your brother and creditor. The subsequent 4 pages were the invoice. My spreadsheet, polished and itemized. Every date, every amount, every pathetic excuse. Loan for can't miss crypto opportunity. $500. Loan for emergency root canal. $10,000. Loan for rental arrears. I'd even included scanned copies of the few IOUs he'd drunkenly scrawled on napkins over the years. And at the bottom, I had calculated a very modest 2% annual interest compounded. The final total, in bold, 24-point font, was $28,754.32. The silence at the head table was deafening. The music was still playing, people were still laughing at other tables, but in our little bubble, time had stopped. Tiffany was the first to break. It wasn't a word, but a sound, a high-pitched squeak of pure, unadulterated rage. "What I asked this," she finally shrieked, her voice cracking. "You're ruining my wedding. This is a joke, right?" I kept my voice low and calm, but loud enough for the curious onlookers at the nearest tables to hear clearly. "It's not a joke, Tiffany. It's an invoice. Kevin wanted to call it even for the nearly $30,000 I've loaned him. I just realized he was right. It's time to settle up." My mother rushed over, her face a mask of confusion and panic. "What's going on? What did you give him?" She grabbed the papers from Tiffany's trembling hands. Her eyes widened in horror. "How could you?" she whispered, clutching her pearls. "How could you do this to your brother?" I finally looked her right in the eye. "How could I? How could you let him drain your retirement account? How could you remortgage your house to pay for his third failed business venture? This isn't me being cruel, Mom. This is me showing you the receipt for your bad parenting." Kevin, who had been sitting there like a statue, finally found his voice. "You're dead to me," he seethed, his face pale and his eyes burning with hate. A genuine smile spread across my face. It was the most freeing feeling I'd ever had. "I know," I said cheerfully. "Consider this my final bill for services rendered. I accept cash, check, or direct deposit. You have 30 days. And with that, I turned around. I put my hands in my pockets and walked out of that reception hall. I didn't look back. As I passed my cousin Mark's table, he raised his glass to me and mouthed one word: legend. The aftermath was exactly as chaotic as you'd expect. My phone was a nuclear meltdown of missed calls and furious texts. I turned it off and went to a movie. I went no contact for the next 3 weeks. I found out later from cousin Mark that the wedding ended with a screaming match between my parents and the newlyweds. Tiffany apparently accused them of raising a monster, me, and my dad, finally snapping, told her that the wedding was a sham they couldn't afford anyway. The honeymoon to Bora Bora was, of course, canceled. About a month later, I received a blustering letter from a lawyer they'd hired, full of words like emotional distress and defamation. I forwarded it to my own lawyer, along with my decades' worth of documentation. My lawyer called me back, laughing. He said they didn't have a leg to stand on and asked if I wanted him to send a formal debt collection notice in response. I told him to absolutely, 100%, do that. It's been almost a year now. The family is fractured. My parents sided with Kevin, of course. They call me every few months to tell me I've broken their hearts, and I just tell them to have Kevin pay his bill if he wants to fix it. But a surprising number of my aunts, uncles, and cousins reached out to support me. The consensus was, it's about damn time. Kevin and Tiffany are living in her parents' basement. He still hasn't paid me a single cent, and I know he never will. But that was never the point. The point wasn't getting the money back. The point was buying my freedom. For the low, low price of $28,754.32, I have purchased a life free of guilt trips, financial drains, and endless emotional blackmail. My phone is quiet. My weekends are my own. My stress levels are non-existent. Best money I ever spent. So yeah, that's how I got myself disowned for the price of a used sedan. And you know what? It was a bargain. If you want to hear more stories about my family of lunatics, like the time my aunt tried to sue a restaurant because the all-you-can-eat buffet ended, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Trust me, the crazy is just getting started.